In 2013, deep inside Rising Star Cave near Johannesburg, excavators squeezed through a passage barely wide enough for a body. Beyond it lay bones from a kind of human no one had named, Homo naledi. Why did only our species survive when 8 others did not? It joined a startling cast. 200,000 years ago, at least 9 kinds of human may have shared Earth. The tempting answer is that Homo sapiens was simply stronger or smarter. The bones say otherwise. Neanderthals had dense skeletons, powerful bodies, and brains that averaged slightly larger than ours. Homo erectus had survived for nearly 2 million years. The answer is less flattering and more useful. Our advantage was not one superior trait, it was a system. Safer weapons, wider alliances, shared symbols, and faster adaptation. Each part was modest. Together, they made catastrophe less final. But that answer creates the real mystery. If our cousins were capable, connected in their own ways, and sometimes had children with us, when did competition end and absorption begin? Begin with the cousin that breaks the simple ladder of progress. Neanderthals controlled fire, made tools, hunted mammoths and woolly rhinoceros, and produced birch bark adhesive. Their barrel chests, strong arms, and dense bones were suited to punishing Ice Age lives. Injuries on some skeletons resemble the pattern seen in modern rodeo riders, consistent with dangerous close encounters with large animals. Calling them failed brutes explains nothing. It hides the problem. Their strength came with a costly hunting style. A heavy thrusting spear works best when its point is driven into prey at close range. Close range means one kick, horn, or fall can remove an experienced hunter from a small band. Homo sapiens increasingly shifted risk outward. A projectile does not need to make its user invincible. It only needs to let more hunters return. That changes the survival equation, one injury at a time. Now the question becomes measurable. How early can we see that distance in the archaeological record? At Sibidu Cave in South Africa, archaeologist Marlies Lombard studied tiny stone points dated to around 64,000 years ago. Traces interpreted as blood, adhesive, and binding support their use as arrowheads, although identifying ancient weapon systems is never as simple as finding a modern bow beside them. The important point is the compound technology. A small stone tip, glue, a shaft, binding, and the knowledge to assemble them turns several fragile pieces into distance. Spear throwers and bows did not arrive everywhere at once, and Neanderthals were not incapable of ranged hunting. Still, a growing sapiens toolkit could reduce the price of a failed hunt. That is evidence, not destiny. A better weapon helps one band this winter. It does not by itself erase other humans across continents. To explain that scale, follow the stone away from the hunter. Some raw materials at sapiens sites traveled hundreds of kilometers. Shells appear far inland. Volcanic glass crosses landscapes. Objects moving that far reveal something more powerful than a sharp edge, people linked beyond the horizon. Those networks were prehistoric insurance. Neanderthal toolstone was often obtained more locally, sometimes within roughly a day's travel, while many sapiens assemblages preserve longer distance movement. The comparison varies by place and period, so it is not a rule that every Neanderthal was isolated or every sapiens was cosmopolitan. But the difference in scale matters. If game failed or water disappeared, a small self-contained band faced the crisis alone. A band with marriage partners, trading contacts, and remembered roots could move, borrow, or join another group. An ally 3 valleys away is stored food that does not rot. Yet alliances among strangers require trust, and trust needs signals. That brings us from stone to an object that looks useless. At Blombos Cave on South Africa's coast, Christopher Henselwood and colleagues found engraved red ochre, including crosshatched geometric patterns, along with pierced shells associated with early Homo sapiens. They could not cut meat or stop a predator. Their value was what other minds understood. A bead can mark belonging. A pattern can carry an idea beyond the person who made it. Symbols let people recognize affiliation, preserve a promise, teach a route, and accumulate knowledge across generations. Neanderthals also left possible symbolic objects, including pigments and modified eagle claws, so symbolism cannot honestly be declared ours alone. The distinction may have been frequency, reach, and the size of the social web those symbols helped maintain. Language belongs in the same cautious category. The FOXP2 gene is involved in the motor systems used for speech, and Neanderthals carried a version close to ours. A Neanderthal hyoid bone from Kibera Cave in Israel also resembles the human throat bone. Neither fact records a conversation, but both weaken the old claim that Neanderthals were mute. The likely advantage was not that sapiens alone could speak. It was that our communication, symbols, and alliances may have carried more information across more relationships. The weapon was not language by itself, it was language with range. Then, climate turned range into survival. During the last 100,000 years, environments changed repeatedly and sometimes abruptly. Around 74,000 years ago, the Toba super eruption in Sumatra spread ash and aerosols on an enormous scale. An older hypothesis linked it to a near-extinction bottleneck in humans. That link remains debated, and evidence of people persisting near the eruption complicates any clean catastrophe story. Toba is useful precisely because it warns against a single-cause answer. No volcano selected one winner in one afternoon. Repeated instability favored populations able to move information, tools, and people quickly. Homo floresiensis, the small-bodied human found at Liangbua on Flores in 2003, disappears from the current record around 50,000 years ago. Homo erectus made its late stand on Java after an extraordinary run. Denisovans are known from sparse remains, including the fingerbone reported from Denisova cave in 2010. Their disappearances had different local histories. What they shared was exposure to shrinking populations, environmental change, and contact with an expanding sapiens network. And contact was not always replacement. Many living people with ancestry outside recent sub-Saharan Africa carry roughly 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA. Some populations also carry Denisovan ancestry. One famous Denisovan-derived genetic contribution helps people living on the Tibetan Plateau function at high altitude. So the branches in the textbook were never perfectly separate. They met, competed, exchanged genes, and sometimes formed families. That changes the central question. Why did they die is too simple when parts of them remain alive in us. Separate populations vanished, but not every lineage ended childless. Homo sapiens survived partly by absorbing useful variation, as well as by outnumbering or displacing competitors. We should also resist counting at least 9 as a fixed census. Species boundaries and classifications are debated, and discoveries such as Homo naledi keep changing the family portrait. The strongest conclusion is not an exact score. It is that human diversity was once normal, and our present solitude is the unusual condition that needs explaining. Now return to that narrow chamber in Rising Star Cave. Homo naledi's bones did not reveal a clean tournament in which the smartest species collected a trophy. They revealed another branch in a crowded, tangled family. Our species' edge was cumulative: project danger across distance, move resources through alliances, preserve knowledge and symbols, and change behavior faster than genes can respond. Climate and small population size amplified every advantage. Interbreeding blurred the finish line. That system, not a single miracle mutation, is why only our species remains as a distinct human population. Look around today, and the result is uncomfortable. 8 billion faces appear to belong to one kind of human, but some carry genetic sentences written by cousins who seem to have disappeared. The 9 became one without becoming entirely separate from us. Homo sapiens did not walk away untouched. We survived by being connected. The last humans standing are, in part, the humans we once met.